So here's a guy that might be presenting at AIPCon. I want to play this clip and get everyone's reaction to this.
AI
Is it Coach Trap?
in particular. I'm excited
Novartis.
as well. For R&D in particular. I mean, it's going to revolutionize just the basics of how we operate as a large company. But I think it's going to change drug discovery and drug development. We have one really fundamental advantage, I think, versus our peers. 5 years ago, we invested heavily and created an integrated data lake we call Data 42 with our partners at Palantir. And now we're leveraging that data lake to move AI very quickly forward in the company. And I think this will give us an advantage because our data is organized. It's got a clear ontology. And I'm hoping that will lead to new discoveries faster over time.
That's a whole nother segment for another day. That's really exciting. I did not realize the Palantir link there, but thank you very much.
That was fucking epic, bro.
It's happening in places you don't even realize. And I think it's very... What's that?
Let me just set it up and then I'll let you go. I think the reason that was epic is because number one, the CNBC reporter had no idea there was a Palantir link, which is why Palantir left that in the video because she was shocked that there's another use case for Palantir. Number two, drug discovery, I think, is like people forget Palantir did a partnership with DuPont Therapeutics back in December. Nothing really came of that partnership, but that company was I don't know if it was a startup, but they were a company that was trying to use like molecule-oriented drug discovery. They're trying to do something in drug discovery. It was very complicated, but Palantir's been in this life and sciences drug discovery game for a while. What is drug discovery? It's taking a shit ton of big data, trying to find patterns in that data, and then do a ton of hypotheses based on those patterns to see if we can come up with the next big mega drug that can get FDA approval. If AIP can accelerate that, or AI in general can accelerate that, but in order to accelerate that, you need to have that common ontology that he's talking about. I definitely think there's a big market opportunity for pharmaceuticals and Palantir, and to have the CEO of one of the fourth largest pharmaceutical companies say that without being prompted to say that, right? That
was he a was that a CEO?
I believe that was the Novartis CEO. Yeah, no, that is the Novartis CEO. Yep. I'll pull up his name in a second. That was pretty cool. So I think that was a good moment for Palantir. Matt, go ahead.
Coach Strap, where's my T-shirt, Coach Strap? Come on, man. Where's the Palantir merch? What's going on? You're the inside now. Hook us up. Come on. At least like a signed like a card from Alex Karp saying I'm coming to get you or something.
His name is Vasant Narasimhan. That's his name, CEO.
Yeah. It's good. Life sciences is a really, really big industry. So if this works for them, this could be a giant industry that they can capitalize on. Because if you go with one, you can get two, and then you can get multiple ones. And this entire segment is a huge, like multi-trillion-dollar business, life sciences. So, if it works for them, it could work for Sanofi. It could work for Pfizer. I think they're already partners actually. So it just keeps on going.
I think drug discovery is a place that really could benefit from something like a Palantir and its Foundry platform. And reason being is these drugs and these trials, as we've kind of seen with what's going on with the pandemic and the vaccine rollout and everyone kind of pushing back a little bit about how quickly it happened and how the trials actually went. And I think that with the use of something like Foundry and the ontology piece, that you're able to organize data appropriately, some of that data might not necessarily disappear like it might in certain places that are biased to get things to work and work quickly. And so I think that this just gives another lens and an ability to organize that data appropriately to make sure that it doesn't disappear. And so I think that it's prudent and bridging. And of course I could always stop, but I think that there was another healthcare company that was specifically not looking at it in terms of like patients and rollouts, but it's something that Chris and I talked about, I would say close to a year ago, about supply chain within healthcare systems and making sure that equipment, and I forget what company it was. That
Cardinal and Concordance, both of those.
Concordance, yeah. And so Chris and I were talking about it at length, and I don't want to like pat ourselves in the back to be like, we're the future. It's like, no, we just understand what the hell Foundry is trying to accomplish, right? And so it was an inevitable case. It's not that Chris and I have some sort of insider knowledge or that we're here trying to predict the future, and it's just like it just goes to show you how many verticals that this company and the product has itself. And so if you think about it and you understand what they're trying to do in terms of categorization and all the back end stuff, it just makes sense that these companies will continue and these industries will continue to gravitate towards something like this. It might not be worthwhile for your small restaurant, but what it might be useful for is a Darden or somebody that has a huge restaurant outlook, Wingstop. So, there's places that have massive amounts of supply chain versus like the corner store, probably not something that it would be useful for.
Mhm.
So it just goes to show you, knowing the product and understanding how it works in the back end and what they're trying to accomplish and the problems they're trying to fix, just goes to show you that you can begin to connect the dots as to where the company might be headed and how much of a runway it has in each individual industry it's gotten into, and how early we really are in the investment of Palantir.
Yeah. Drug discovery is really exciting to me. I agree with everything you said. I mean, it's one of those things where, if, God forbid another pandemic or anything breaks out, like you need an acceleration of these unique types of drugs. I mean, there's so many diseases we haven't cured, so many different types of cancers that still exist. And I think they will be cured over the next 100 years. We'll be long gone after that, but it's going to need technology to be able to help do that. It's not just going to happen because some guy's reading a book at a library and figures out the cure. Was there any, or I guess here's the question: do you think Novartis will be at AIP? Do you think this was planned at all, or do you think the guy just let it out just because? I mean, he said he kind of pitched it, right? It was one of those things where he's acting like he wanted to talk about Palantir on that interview.
Oh, he's definitely going to be there. He's definitely going to be one of the presenters. I think at this point, Palantir might actually be asking some of their key partners to make sure that they highlight this, because it's very helpful for someone else in the industry that actually using your product to say nice things about you. So
Yeah.
Palantir might have said, hey, listen, if you could do me a favor, I might get you a better deal on the contract. Hook me up. Because at the end of the day, this is the one sentence from this guy probably got them maybe an additional $50 million in revenue.
Yeah.
If you think about all the conversion that could possibly happen. So yeah, I think they probably just said to the Novartis team, like, hey, listen, you guys like Palantir Foundry, right? How about we knock off a few points off of your contract and you say some nice things about us and, we call it even. And
Are companies
Snowflake
allowed
does
to do that?
too.
Does that happen in corporate America a lot?
Hell yeah. Why not? Hell yeah. It's private companies, baby. That's what you're allowed to do. You can negotiate whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, you could imagine that, because it sounded like such a structured pitch. It didn't sound like he was casually talking about them. It sounded like he was ready for that moment, right?
But that's the thing. It makes me think, like, these guys are all part of the BBC, and I don't mean the one. I mean the Billionaire Boys Club. I know Matt's going to try to make a joke.
No,
but I think it makes me wonder, because you'll hear some people, like we've seen, talk really down upon what's going on at Palantir. They'll look down upon it, and they're on one side of the fence. You'll have some folks that are with them, that are rubbing shoulders with Alex, and they're really adamant about making sure that they get Palantir's name out there. They're adamant about going on CNBC and talking about the Hertz partnership. They're adamant about going to conferences and talking about. I don't want to put myself in a bind on that one. They're adamant about going to conferences and talking to others. They're adamant about having people come to FoundryCon. And the thing that I just want to know is, like, where does the line get drawn? And maybe I'm not explaining it appropriately, the kind of like brain map that I have, but it's like, eventually it's going to fill out to all these people that truly believe and rub shoulders in a certain social network.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be a line in the sand, and eventually it's going to sort of hit some sort of like saturation point. But at what point does it start to spill over where people are like, okay, well, Palantir is really not here to beat away at us. But you see that as well with like what's going on in the big tech companies, right? They lean certain ways and they're rubbing shoulders with the certain people. You see that happening with Jack Dorsey's companies. And then we saw that a little bit with Twitter, right? I mean, you kind of have these social hierarchies that rub shoulders with certain people to be able to get things to happen as appropriate. And so I'm just kind of curious, like in the back end, and we talked a little bit about when the prime minister of the UK went to the baseball game with Karp, right? And they were talking about probably more than just the first London AI hub deals, and they were probably talking about the NHS and stuff of the like. And so it gets you to start to think about what social circles some of these guys roll in to be able to make these sorts of deals. But anyway,
we are 2 months away from this NHS decision. I mean, 3 months max. So That's also going to be a big deal if we get
Dude,
enough
that's
politics.
it's one thing, two things not going to make a difference, and especially with the NHS, I don't
Not
think it's
for the stock. I think if we don't get the deal, I just feel like it's bad for Palantir to not.
Oh, who gives a shit, dude? The
I
NHS
give
has
a
been
shit. That's a big deal.
no, it's not
Managing an
because
entire country's healthcare system is not a big deal.
dude, Tampa probably had Tampa General and like some of the other like larger hospital systems that we have are way more complex than the NHS is. And the NHS, you have to deal with the political ramifications. I don't even think that involvement with the NHS is a good idea to begin with, but that's just my opinion. Anytime you get like government involvement in something like this in healthcare, then anything that happens, it's like you're putting a target on your own back. Oh, Palantir, because of Palantir, there's more deaths because of cancer. Like you can paint Palantir in any light, and I'm guessing Foxglove or whatever the hell those companies are, they'll use every single opportunity they can to make Palantir's life a living hell while they're in the NHS.
But if Palantir performs and there's less wait times and less people have cancer, less people are more surgeries, that's the upside risk to it, right?
Yeah, I could see it having huge implications in the rest of the G8 countries and their healthcare systems. So I think that could spill over. Somebody said it, the EU. I could see it spilling over to Canada. I could see it spilling over to Mexico. I could see it spilling over to a lot of places that align. Does
Mexico have socialized healthcare?
Good question. I don't know.
I know Canada definitely does. I'll look that up.